All right, guys. So today, since we have both the S85 taken apart and the S63 taken apart in the shop, we're going to settle this debate. This is the craziest debate. What's better, S63 or S85? Okay. So on paper, if you're just some kid looking at numbers on paper, which is what most people do, right? You're going to see the S63 has a little more horsepower. You're going to see that that's the newer version, right? They no longer make the V10, the S85. The S80 or S63 is the newest version, right? Twin turbo V8, like that has to be good, right? So here, I'm gonna just give you the rundown. If you have not seen my previous videos, I'm just some old man working on BMWs, right? Go do what you want. I'm not telling you to do anything, just go do whatever you want. But I do know a few things about these engines. A lot of these gonna say, what do you know? What do you know? You never even had a S63. You never even took one apart. What's that? Oh, S63? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, both these engines have rod bearing problems, right? S85 is known to have rod bearing problems. S63 is very known to have rod bearing problems. Even the newer versions, not as bad on the newer ones, but the newer ones. Basically, damn near every M car has rod bearing problems. S55, that's debatable. Some of the early ones did. Did they really fix it? Time will tell. Most of those cars are not 200,000 miles where you would know. Okay, so you're saying, man, that's a lot of freaking hoses, son. That is a lot of hoses. That's not all of them. A lot of them are in the back of the car. A lot of them are still on the car. How many hoses is there? Without counting, just a quick rundown, I would say somewhere between 65 and 85, somewhere in there. Okay, this car has 90, I don't remember, 94,000. The S85 we have apart, which is over there on the table, has about the same mileage this one has. I don't remember exactly what this has. It's right around that area. And here's the thing. At this mileage on this engine, like every other BMW and every other Mercedes, you need to do all the coolant lines, right? The M157 on my G-Wagon is set up similar to this, a lot less hoses. We're having hoses blowing apart, been having hoses blow apart for a while, and it's at 86 or 87,000 miles. That car we have resolved because there was about 20 hoses on the G-Wagon. There's about 10 hoses on the S85. And like I said, anywhere from 65 to 85 on this. All right, so let's do some quick math here. Let's say you need to buy all the hoses. There's two problems with that. You cannot buy all these hoses in a kit, right? So let me back up a little further. X6M, X5M, M5 this year, these are about $20,000 cars. If everything's been done, good mileage, you know, $20,000. Keep that number in mind. All right, a used one of these that may or may not be better than the one you took out, the whole engine, is about $8,000 to $10,000. Okay, so keep in mind here, $20,000 car. If this car needs a new engine, this is not really fixable at the current spun rod bearing situation this one's operating at. So we have to start with $8,000, right? Now, since we spun the rod bearings in this thing, we need oil coolers. We got 1 oil cooler, 2, 3 oil coolers. This one I think was around $700. These are about $300 to $500 a piece for each one of those. You're probably looking $1,500. $1,500 for 3 new oil coolers. You can no longer use these because all the shrapnel is stuck in the oil coolers, right? If you put a good engine back in this, it's going to blow up again. I'm sorry, but it will. All right, so how much do all the hoses cost? Here's the tricky part. Some quick math. Let's say there's 65 hoses on this car. I think we're shooting a little bit under it. A hose costs anywhere from $50 to $150. Okay. Let's just for quick math reasons, let's go $100 a piece. Just split the difference. You need 65 hoses on the low side. That's $6,500 just in hoses. All the hoses for the S85, we're probably looking at what? $400? Maybe, let's say worst case, $500. That's buying all OEM stuff, because all you guys know, on the push lock hoses, you cannot buy aftermarket ones or they will leak. The catch to this car is a lot of these hoses cannot be gotten to unless the engine's out of the car. Because when this engine's in the car, the engine literally sets like right here, and you can't get to anything in the back or the bottom. There's no taking, I don't think you even take the starter off this car, to be honest with you, without at least dropping the engine down to get to it. So, at 94,000 miles, what's the shape of the turbos in this car? We're kind of getting to the point to where it's, is it gonna need new turbos? All right, like to send your turbos off, have them done, what is it, like $3 grand? Let's just say $3 to $5 grand. All right, you're $6,500 in coolant lines and miscellaneous. You are, let's say $3 grand. Let's go low on it. We'll be easy. $3 grand in turbos. That's $9,000 just in some of the parts. But wait, then they put direct injection. All the injectors are right here. These engines are known for injectors to fail. You're saying, well, Fatty, how much are these injectors? Well, they're $3,500, right? So you're looking at what, let's just say you're at this point in time, what, 12, 13, just in miscellaneous. All right. Okay, then you need pulleys, you need a belt, you should do the water pump while you're here, the thermostat. Let's say another, well, this engine, let's say $1,000 for that stuff. We'll shoot a little high on that. We shot low on some other stuff. Or $13,000 just in the stuff that goes on the outside. Okay? That's if you're doing it according to BMW. There's many other things on this engine that need to be done. Many other gaskets, many other things also. There's also high pressure fuel pumps that could fail. There's many, 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 many layers of stuff on this. Okay. The next thing is, where was that here? I lost my place. Okay, so we're $13,000 in. So this engine's blown. We need a different core. It's $8,000, right? So what are we into it right now? We're pretty much $20,000 into it. Yes, but we don't have any labor included in this. And we're also taking the control arms off to do this job. Might as well buy new control arms. Cheapies are a couple hundred. OEM ones are probably $1,500, right? So let's say you want to put OEM. You're a stickler for that. Let's say you want to put OEM back on it. $1,500. We're about $22,000 into this thing, right? Just to like get it running. That's nothing else is wrong. S85. S85. Okay. So, yeah, we won't talk about that part of it, but this is the state this is in, right? We'll give you a little preview of some future videos coming up. Okay, S85, chances are, if you buy one of these, it's gonna be SMG box, which is what that is. These actually come down a lot in price. Let's say you grenaded your SMG box. Let's say you're being a real douchebag and just ruined it, all right? $1,500, $2,000, you could buy a functioning used one for it. Let's shoot her high, boys, $2,000. A clutch is $600. Let's just average out $2,500 if that breaks. We didn't even figure the transmission on that. ZF 6HP26. Those are probably, let's say $1,500 off eBay for a used one that functions. This guy is about the same price as this, to be honest with you. Okay, hoses. We have 4 hoses laying right there. We have secondary air hose laying right here. We have a couple little hoses, just a couple. we're about 10 hoses all together. We already talked about that. Maybe it's $400 or $500. All right. Vanos pump. Let's say your Vanos pump shit the bed. Okay, it's $1,500 for a Dr. Vanos pump. Dr. Vanos pump. It was. I don't know what it is anymore. So you're $400 in hoses. Let's say you're $1,500 in that. You're $2,000 in it. Let's say you need to put new belt and pulleys and crap on it. That's a couple $100 in this thing at the most. So let's say 15. Let's say you're $2,200 in it going that far. All right. So let's say you saved. You got to it early enough, and the rod bearings aren't too bad. You can put new rod bearings in it. That's about a $600 job for parts. So we're $2,800 so far for rod bearings and rod bolts, and then a Vanos line. We're probably getting close. Let's just say $3,000 is a real safe estimate on this. That'll buy oil pan gasket, valve cover gaskets, all that stuff. And we're kind of going a different area here. The expansion tank for this one's cheap. Everything else seems to be pretty cheap on this car. All the headers are good. Let's say we're getting air codes for our throttle actuators. I don't remember how much those are anymore. I haven't looked at those in a while. I'm going to say just split in the middle. Let's say $500. You just bought some legit ones to put them on there. If not, you could fix them for about $100 or so dollars. Let's just say $500. Okay, so we're a little bit $3,000. We're pretty much getting there. What sucks about S85 is have these stupid coil packs. They're $100 a piece. There's 10 of them. If you want to do that, it's $1,000. You get a little cheaper, you buy 10 of them at once. So let's say $4,000. Let's say if you need a new ionic sensor, which goes in the front of the head, right? Usually you can find those used that are still good shape for, I don't know, $200 or $300. And I'm trying to think what else. We're kind of getting to the end of the S85 pieces. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. If you go to buy timing chain guides, a couple $100, you get some pretty legit ones for that. So we have $4,000. I don't remember. $4,000, I think, or so in it. Cylinder head stuff. Like, we'll do head gaskets for $130 in this engine for OEM L-ring and so forth. $4,000 is a real safe. That's if, like, things are pretty bad, right? And so you have 507 horsepower, the F1 V10, small displacement, short stroke, 5-liter. All right. The water pumps, okay, we'll give it the benefit of that. Water pumps, a couple $100 for this. So let's just round it up. Let's say if you went full ignorant on that engine, you spent $5,000 on it. Let's say you had to go source a crank, like worst case, your crank's bad. Maybe you got $6,000 or $7,000 in this mess to get all back together. Realistically, we could fix this car for 4 is like a real safe. That's a pretty good number. But there again, if the engine's blown, it's $8,000 for an engine. You can find them a little cheaper S85s. Sometimes you can find them for $5,000. But you get too cheap, you get what you pay for. So that's the difference in the money. That's not even the car. E60 is pretty cheap to fix. E71 is not. That's not cheap. You're gonna have a lot of electronic issues with that. It's similar to E60 as far as that goes. But E61 is all-wheel drive issues, drive shaft issues, potential transfer case problems. These Zoos have transfer case issues with the chain. So is X5M and an E70. And there you go. So is it worth, you're talking $22-ish thousand to put this thing back together if you have to buy a core and do everything. I didn't even figure in the rod bearings and the bolts for that. You're talking another $1,000, $23,000. That's why we're not fixing this. So to all the kids out there on the forums, I was looking through that damn Facebook group, and some guy is selling an E60 M5, and he was like, oh, selling this, time to move on. Okay. Some little shithead was on there saying, oh, he must have got gapped by X63. Let me tell you something, son. The only thing that gapped by S63 was your wallet. That'll gap real big. And unless your daddy's a millionaire, this is going to send you in bankruptcy, period. So the recommendation to the owner of this car, I don't own this car, never did, is sell it like it is. If you get 12 out of it, turn and run, right? If somebody has a S63 already built up in the garage from a wrecked one they rebuilt, this is a good deal for you. Is it still going to be a lot of money? Yes, it still is a lot of money. It can still cost you over 10 grand if you need some injectors, you need all the hoses, control arms. An insane money car. That is the most genuine comparison from S85 to S63 I could possibly do. I thought I'd make this video out. Both these cars are in the shop. I could point my finger and say this, this, and this. I probably missed 20 things on the S63. And what are you going to do? Pay 30 grand? You got to pay somebody to do that. Like, here's the thing. You got to pay somebody to do that stuff. How much is shop labor for somebody that would do that? 200 bucks an hour? Let's say you got a really good deal. Let's say it was 100 bucks an hour. How many weeks is it going to take them to do that? It don't matter how fast your little fingers work. It took us probably 4 days to get that engine out of that car. And not working 8 hours a day on it, obviously. Working when we had time, but there was 2 of us here doing that, me and my cousin. And it was a serious struggle to get that out. But there again, how much would you drop this thing off at the shop and said, fix it? They're going to charge you 10 grand to do that if they can even do it correctly. And if you miss one hose, miss one thing, you're taking the engine back out. Oh my God. So that's the catch of it. Now, S85 to do rod bearings, have a shop do your rod bearings before they're bad, it's probably a couple grand. If you could find a shop to do that, that's not a difficult job for me anymore. That's real easy. We got everything to do it now. If it's not let go too long like this one was, that's not bad, right? That's not a bad job. That's take it apart one day, put it back together the next day. But that's my most genuine thoughts on this. Is BMW bad for making the S85 with rod bearing failure? No. It's a lot of power out of a small displacement engine that's a legit racing engine. Is BMW bad for making that? Yes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, BMW. Ban me forever. But you're an asshole for doing that. Period. Because there's so many people have these cars. We're seeing them pop up all over now with the same problem. And it's unfixable. The car is not worth fixing that. Period. That's it. There's my bitch session. If I sound bitchy, I'm not trying to be bitchy. I'm trying to save you guys from going bankrupt. Have a good day. See you later.